Welcome to Get to the Point. I'm your host, Jessica Spahn, and I'm excited today to bring you a show highlighting the importance of recreation and community, brought to you by the Keller Pointe. Join us each episode and be inspired as we bring you conversations with community leaders who share their experiences, expertise, and explore the role that recreation plays in sustaining well-being and success. What are we waiting for? Let's get to the point. Welcome to Get to the Point. I'm your host, Jessica Spahn, and today we have a special guest from Connections Wellness Group. This is Brian Dunn.
Woo! How you doing? Nice to be here.
Everybody
Thanks
on
for
the
having
other
me.
side of the camera's cheering. I know you're so excited. So we figured that it's already February, and New Year's resolutions kind of you never know.
Right.
But for people that are trying to conquer the year, we're thinking they need a little bit of maybe some coaching, some coaxing.
Yeah. A little bit of both is good.
Working on that mental and physical activity side of things. And so you're a counselor. Will you explain more about your background so people can know, like, and trust you?
Yes. So I am a licensed clinical social worker. I did my graduate program over at UTA in Arlington. Go Mavericks. And in that setting allowed me to go out and practice in a lot of different clinical forms in psychiatric hospital settings, nursing home settings, juvenile probation. I've worked with private counseling in doing couples, and I've worked with various different, I don't know, we're going to start over.
No, keep going. I love it. Various different, you're going to say celebrities, wink, wink.
Yeah.
All the NDAs and whatnot, those guys, you can't speak to that. But I think it's interesting I'm curious, and I don't really want to dive in too deep with the whole juvenile system and the psychiatric hospitals, but I bet you have some
it's an interesting
stories.
way to answer some of that because, I start going through a resume of different places, where I've worked with different people, but some are different than others. Working with Fort Worth PD was pretty cool. I've done work with TCU and their counseling center. So there's a lot of different venues where you can do clinical work. So
I love that.
If anything, it's just kind of offered more of a support to my clinical knowledge and working with different people. I've learned who I really enjoy to work with. Yeah. So I guess that's
Who do you really enjoy working with?
I do like someone who wants to come to therapy who's motivated.
Oh, you need that.
So I prefer working with adults. I do marriage counseling in my private practice. Connections Wellness sees any, group of people. We have a whole kinds of counselors that'll see various different ages. So,
well, I'd like to talk more, and I know, you mentioned the juveniles, but so at the Keller Pointe, we are obviously a recreational and fitness activity facility, I guess you could call it. And right now we're doing volleyball, just started, and spring break camps are coming up, and swim lessons, and all this stuff is happening.
Right.
We're pool's working, we're fully functional again. So it is just like, community. So I wanted to talk a little bit about just how kind of the kids have come out of the pandemic, maybe how like the screen time has shifted. Maybe they spend more time on screens,
right? And
how the importance of getting into even say like a volleyball team or on a team and learning to work with real life people versus just online. Have you seen kids having issues or like see that as a need, that a place that can be filled?
Yeah, I think that we all saw that we had to close in, we had to shelter in place, we had to really rely on our electronics and the virtual setting, even though it was convenient and allowed us to operate, go to school, go to work. Then it became more of a dependence, like you're saying, where maybe people leaned into it, became more comfortable only doing that instead of kind of getting back out to, getting out into school, getting out to work. So I think it really is the personality. And for when we're talking about kids, we got to have parents that are modeling a better behavior, right? So if you have kids that are really not moving out of that and getting active and trying to build social communities outside of their home, we got to show them the way, like we do with anything else, how to manage anxiety and how to live healthy, active lifestyles, I think comes with parenting and modeling, right? So
absolutely. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. And I know on the show in the past, we have had a segment on communication and what it was like in high school or college, but we're similar age. So I think for that conversation, it's already been had before on the show. So what I was thinking would be more fun, since you're a counselor, would be to talk a little bit more about real life communication, as in like coming out of this place where we were on the screens and having to readjust again to making eye contact.
Right.
People still don't shake hands. It's kind of that awkward pound
Fist bump.
to elbow. Like, I don't think it's awkward. So do you have any tips, or like, what do you think, what would you like to say to that, I guess, as like, as an expert in the industry of helping people be their best selves? Like, how do they start communicating again?
Well,
in real life?
I love that question. I love that question. I think some of it is, if we look at it like we're on a spectrum,
okay,
then we had to shift a little on that spectrum to operate a certain way because we're sheltering in. And now as we're coming out of that, we need to move back up the spectrum to a little bit more of what we're used to. Although we might slightly modify and adjust out of respect, right? So I might initially engage someone and give them that fist bump or that elbow.
You can't hug yet.
And
not straight away, not to strangers.
You got to ask permission, right?
Right.
Anyway, we should all ask permission.
Before a hug.
That's right, before a hug and bodily contact. So there's some of it is just a respect, not knowing how another person feels.
Yeah,
I think
what their comfort level is now.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think we kind of grew to be a little bit more thoughtful, actually, about that, which is not a bad thing.
And I like that idea, too, like what you're speaking to, because like I think that just reinforces boundaries and that area of life that you have to create to protect yourself.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
So that's one of the good things that came from it, is that it made us a little bit more aware of, hey, I need to be thoughtful about our boundaries and making sure I'm respecting other people's space. I'm a hugger. So I need to be careful to ask.
I was gonna say, I totally didn't. I didn't intentionally disrespect other people's boundaries.
No.
But I was always like,
I need to check.
High five, boo, boo, boo.
That's right. But and then the other part about it, we were talking about communication earlier, is how we had to do so much on electronic.
Yeah.
And then you lose out when you do the real important conversations, and you're doing it by text message, and you lose tone of voice and volume, and you lose
context. Body
eye
language.
contact, body language, all these things that make us able to communicate. And that's, what do they say? 85% of communication is really not even what we're saying.
Yeah.
Right. So then you're just reading information, and you have all this room for interpretation. Has led to a lot of offenses. I think we talked about how we can get more easily offended when we're doing too much communicating electronically and not enough person to person. So.
Well, then I think that speaks to motive. And I wish I could remember which book I was reading. I've been reading a few different books. I love New Year's because I just get motivated. I mean, more motivated than usual. I'm usually motivated. But I was reading one called Unreasonable Hospitality. And I'm pretty sure. So I don't quote me on this. I'm also reading Atomic Habit. There's a few other books that I'm just enjoying to start the year off with. And they were speaking to they being one of the books that I was reading. I didn't want to just start off saying like something I read. Like it doesn't really give context, but it was talking about really just like giving the person the grace, the expecting that they meant well, like no matter what happens, like on whatever end it is. Because, ultimately, at the end of the day, you and I are both in the service industry.
Yes.
You're serving, and people can have their bad day.
That's right.
They don't, and even driving. That's kind of, I guess, where I get most of my.
We used to call it giving someone the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Right? And I wish I remember they had coined some phrase that I thought was like, wow. I mean, it's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
But it just, for some reason, was more impactful, but not impactful enough for me to recall at this moment.
To remember it. Right.
But it made me think again, like, and back to that on social media and on screen time, it's like if people say things, I feel like we've a lot of us have gotten negative, like as far as like we respond as if they were saying it to be negative or to attack something,
right?
Instead of being like, oh, maybe they meant something well, or
right.
So I think,
Well, I was thinking that one of the things we learn in mental health training and studying is how behavior is reinforced, or it's called classical conditioning. Maybe you remember Psych 101.
I did take that.
Right. Okay. Most of us took, if we were in college, we took Psych 101. We learned Pavlov and classical conditioning, and that behavior is reinforced. So that being the model that we can always go back to and think, how is my activity and what I'm doing producing and reinforcing me into the behavior, but based on the outcome.
Right.
So when you have an outcome like I make a post and based on that post, I get a bunch of likes on my social media for a kid, that's very reinforcing. That's very much like giving them that dopamine rush that makes them go, man, I love that. And other times I make a post and people don't like it. And then they centralize that, becomes part of their identity. That's where we start to see a real curve and them finding purpose and meaning in what they're posting and what people are responding.
Right.
That can be very dangerous if you think about how unreliable that is to get feedback from
Strangers.
social media and total strangers. Think about that.
Right.
And that becomes how they look in the mirror and find identity in themselves.
Yeah.
Scary thought.
That is scary. And that's why I think too, going back to having the community, the sports, the just whatever that has, it puts them in an environment with other peers,
right,
that they're able to get the validation as well from, so that it's not strictly from online, because that is a very fickle way.
That's right. And that's how we used to be.
Yeah.
Like growing up as a kid, we were, going around my neighborhood and riding our bikes and putting together football games and baseball in the neighborhood. Now you have to be in organized sports to have that. You're not really seeing kids in the neighborhood playing together anymore. And so
you see them playing at the Keller Pointe at 3:30.
There you go.
At 3:30 every single day, I hear all the children come running from school on their bikes.
And that's a really
which
good
is great
point.
for them. I hide in the office at that time of day, though.
Yeah,
Like,
but
I'm in the back.
That's a great point that you just made, that people have to be intentional to get them out to a place like Keller Pointe to get their kids plugged in, to be able to be around other kids, to find out who they are and how they play with it. That's
because they need to learn how to interact with others.
Very valuable when kids are
absolutely.
not doing it in their neighborhoods anymore. It's really up to parents to get them over to Keller Pointe. I love that.
Exactly, man.
That was perfect
That wasn't
timing.
necessarily a plug, because honestly,
I love it.
at 3:30, I hear him coming, and I do not go out of the office. I go into the back section, and then I leave when I'm done with my day. If I walk out there, I'm like, there's like so many kids here.
You were not called to. It's like herding cats.
Thing.
At that point, it's like herding cats.
Yeah, but I don't mind herding cats.
So, I've done coaching of 6-year-olds flag football, and it's like herding cats.
I imagine. And that's another thing too. I like that you brought that up. So Keller Pointe is trying to start a new program, or has done it recently, a few months. And we're trying to bring in this Homeschool PE.
Mm-hmm.
So for kids that are homeschooled, we're trying to bring in a class that is once a week. It's just like an hour or so a day. But it brings in together the same, like the community for them. So they get so they're not completely, because I can't imagine homeschool now with everything being online.
Yes.
Versus even when I was a kid, my parents did 6 months of homeschool, and that was a nightmare for me.
Yes.
I was bored out of my mind, and I still did sports. Like, I don't know. So that's such a great idea. They just started doing that, and I'm like, yes, I feel like every mom or anybody who homeschools should totally bring their kids, and then they should hang out, because then the parents hang out and become friends.
I feel like that might have been when you got your fascination with cats, maybe when you spent all that time in homeschool.
Probably that's the 6 months. I was like bored out of my mind. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love cats. People know that.
One of the benefits.
Absolutely. So let's say, so Fit City is coming up, guys. April 1st through May 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the aspects that we focus on is mental activity. So we've been talking a lot about physical activity and community, which obviously Fit City brings together the community, and that's awesome.
Right.
But as far as mental activity, what advice do you have to just, as we age,
right,
we need to keep our brains sharp. I listened to some Caroline Leaf. I love her. She speaks really fast.
Yeah, switch on the brain.
Yeah, I mean, but
Dr. Leaf.
I think you have to be working on learning new things. But so for mental activity, for the Fit City Challenge, do you have any ideas or advice, or anything to reinforce the fact that that's a good thing that we should be doing?
Yes, there's a lot of value to it, because when you just mentioned Caroline Leaf, it made me think about, she wrote an incredible book on how to switch on the brain.
Mm-hmm.
You're creating pathways in our brain whenever we're learning new things. So if I can engage in an activity, a new activity, or a really dynamic workout that really I have to think through and engage my brain in the process of doing my activity, this is creating pathways in my brain which offset the parts of my brain that is
Deteriorating.
dying off,
Yeah.
because that's just the way the brain is, right? And so that's one part of it. Oxygen increase to the brain, we know, has huge benefits. But the other thing a lot of people don't know is that kids and adults can have pent up adrenaline from anxieties of life.
Okay.
And so when we exert ourselves and get into an activity that's very focused, running around playing basketball, running on a treadmill, things like this that really focus in, we're flushing that adrenaline buildup out of our body. It naturally brings down the chemistry
Well, yeah, and you get endorphins
that leads to
and all that.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Anxiety, sorry.
Yeah. No,
So-
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because then you get endorphins as well. But so
Oh, yeah.
do you have any suggestions for mental activities? I don't know how to phrase that. So,
Mental health activities.
so like reading, obviously that's one. But
Reading is great.
but what else? Because so Fit City's around the corner, and I'm trying to think of
Okay.
what to encourage our community to just give them tips, like a list. Hey, here's some ideas
Okay.
to get your brain.
Well,
Like-
one of the things I like about where y'all are located, right by the trail,
Yeah.
is if someone wanted to use the trail and get outside and get in the sunlight,
Yeah.
and build up and make that part of their workout, they can do some gym workout and then they can run out on the trail and
Yeah.
get a little vitamin D. We know that vitamin D is a big component that we're all missing.
Yeah.
Again, being sheltered in,
Yes.
kind of caused that isolation. Getting back out into the sun, we know is going to have incredible value for our body. And, I think the other thing that's good is when you said reading,
Yeah.
I thought about how important it is to be learning all the time.
Yeah,
Whether that
always.
might be listening, maybe you
Podcasts.
can engage two activities, right? Podcast while you're on the
Right.
on the bike,
Oh, 100%.
right? I think reading an audiobook while you're doing an exercise is a great way to bring your intellectual strength and
Mhm.
learning and a physical activity, and then
Yeah.
you're socializing because you're around people. So now if you realize that we're holistic people and we're physical, we're emotional, we're social, intellectual, we're spiritual, right? All these components need to be really monitored in our life to bring us that balance. I try to teach people about how to keep a balance in their life, not perfectly,
Yeah.
but what weighs me down is the tough stuff, the
Yeah.
expectations, the things I got to do, and the things that are over here on the good side are what's missing. Good sleep, good eat, activity,
Yeah.
the things that we need to make sure are part of our lifestyle to keep us closer to here. Because then our resilience is up,
Yeah.
and it gives us a chance to really thrive,
Yeah.
and problem solve and manage. We can do this and model it, teach it to our kids.
I love that. And I love, it's funny you just mentioned sleep, because that's where I was going to segue to
Okay.
next. So thank you for reading my mind.
Yeah,
So sleep is a huge part of functioning.
right.
If you don't sleep, for me, I get like, you don't want to be around me. Not for, yeah. But we were talking
I can relate.
recently about sleeping, and kind of, so tell me what the best, like, how do you set the stage for good sleep?
Okay.
Like, what's some advice?
Yeah. So one of the things I do is I try to talk to someone and evaluate what are some of your routines in the evening. Do a little assessment of how you're ending your day.
Mhm.
A lot of times I'll talk to college students who are going to the gym for a workout, and then they go home and they eat, and then they study, and then they get on a Netflix show, and then they're on social media, and then they turn the light out.
The
Right?
body's not ready
Talk
yet.
about a crash landing. So what I try to help them design is more of a descent, coming in for a landing,
Okay.
like an airplane coming in, imagine. So give yourself an hour buffer at the end of your day, finish all stimulating activities and things that you might eat or drink. Give yourself that hour of set the room up, change the lighting, take your hot shower bath or cold one, and then lay in bed with this kind of buffer where all my electronics are off. I'm doing maybe an easy activity or easy listening, and allowing myself that end of the day to descend, and allowing my brain to reset and think about tomorrow and just kind of come in for a landing.
Think about tomorrow.
Busy stimulus, lights out versus a little buffer there. You just create a little hour there to come in for a landing. And a lot of people will make that change in a day or two and see results right away.
Really? Okay. So what I've been doing, I like that we're talking about this, is I actually set my phone goes to do not disturb at 8 p.m.
Good. Love it.
Yes. I still have not successfully maximized that benefit yet, though, because again, changing habits and coming out of the Netflix era. I don't know what we'll call it. I'm tired of calling it post-pandemic.
Right.
The era of all of the streaming online. So, and then having a regular day-ish job, we'll call that.
Right.
I have gotten into the rhythm this past year of, going to the gym after work, whatever, and then, dinner, and then, watch a couple Netflix shows on my phone. And so while I'm on my show, it pops up the do not disturb on my computer. So I know it's already like 8 or whatever, but I have to show you. So what you're saying then is I probably shouldn't be eating candy, because I really when I'm watching my Netflix at night, this stuff is my favorite, these little sixlets. And I go to Central Market and I just keep putting them in my mouth for an hour, which that can't be good. And they're sugar. They're like sugar and chocolate.
Right.
So
might be a little bit challenging.
I'm wondering if I'm doing it wrong.
Right.
So what I maybe should do then is actually pay attention to my do not disturb and take down the streaming stuff. Stop eating. Maybe stop eating by
just
8.
A little buffer,
I don't know. Yeah, okay. Because this has been a challenge. It's really when you get into a routine, you're kind of stuck there.
Yeah, I like some good tea at night. You can do
it's
a
not
chamomile
as good
lavender,
as chocolate,
right?
But okay.
But it sets the stage. It's not as fun as chocolate. You're right. I mean, you can actually, a lot of people, when I actually sat in on a lecture on someone that really understood and studied sleep, and I learned a lot of tips from that individual, they said there are times when you need to kind of settle your digestion and you might be hungry, and it's hard to fall asleep when you're hungry.
It is, but maybe a piece of toast with honey or something. What do you think?
Well, you can research, and it could be, but honey has a lot of sugar. So it just depends on how your body processes sugar.
I feel like I like sugar.
Yeah.
It makes me hyper.
Yeah.
That's how it processes
But then
sugar.
there's stuff in the morning. How often do you hit the snooze button?
Never. Mm-mm.
Good.
Oh,
good for you.
On that note, well, here's the thing, and here's why. Because I've been trying to be intentional to build my day, because I do believe very strongly that sleep is super important to success.
Absolutely.
So I got the Hatch. It's like an alarm clock. It's called, I think it's called the Hatch or Restore or something. But it's like a light and a sound machine thing.
Oh, cool.
That it's an alarm and it has your clock on it. So I can set it. So I set it in the morning to do a sunrise.
Ooh,
10
nice.
minutes. So there's my snooze, we'll call it, I guess, but I'm not awake yet. It wakes me up. So usually the lighting of it as it comes on, at some point in that time, that's when my body wakes up. So I don't even wake up to any noise, which is my favorite. And then if it does get to that point and I'm not awake yet, it does these flute, there's all these different options, but it's very calming.
Yes.
Very calming way to wake up. And I was very intentional about that because, yes, I'm exploring how to thrive in life.
That's right.
The sleep has been a challenge for me for so long.
Well, that's good. I like that I like your morning routine there. A lot of people don't realize that the only time you should hit your snooze button is if you have at least 90 more minutes. Another sleep cycle.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So if you don't have a full sleep cycle, then you're going into your next night's sleep. So if you only have 20 more minutes or 30 more minutes before you really have to get up, you should just
honestly just makes
me
more,
a real lame
it
thing
makes me
when
more cranky.
If you wake up too early, sometimes people wake up too early. That happens to me. I look at the clock and I go, well,
don't look at the clock. That's your problem.
I don't have 30 more minutes.
But that's your problem. If you didn't look at the clock, how would you know? Would your body tell you?
No.
So, okay, wait, hold on. Side note about that. So there is the one caveat with me and my cat. So my cat has to eat at a certain time.
Yeah.
So when he eats about 6-ish or 6:30, depends. I literally listened for my parents to put their little doggy food out because that's when the cat starts flipping out because, you know, animals. So I don't set an alarm for him anymore. I just wait for that. And then I go feed him. I don't look at the clock. I go right back to bed because I don't want to know if I'm getting 20 more minutes or 50 more minutes or 9. I don't want to know.
That's the same as a snooze.
It's not. I have to do it, and I'm not going to stay up. It's not a snooze. If I didn't have to do that, I wouldn't even be. I don't believe in snooze. It's the going back to bed part because I don't look at the clock. It's technically at least another whatever you want to call it.
So you're trying to tell yourself you're sleepwalking.
Sure. Yeah. I'm just getting up.
I'm still asleep.
Go back to sleep.
I love that.
They have to. So animals.
Hey, if it's working
high
for you.
maintenance, and it is. Yeah. Do you have pets?
Yes, I have a dog. And
it's not difficult. They're not high maintenance. How old is she?
She's probably going on 8.
Okay.
She's getting up there.
I'm just saying when they get older, they get more challenging.
Oh, yeah.
So, but you've got kids, right?
Oh, yeah. Now he's on the clock, man. My 6-year-old, when he's up, it's go time, right?
What time's go time?
Probably 6:37.
Oh, okay. So like my cat.
So I'm on the same clock, so we're pretty good.
That's cool.
That's right.
Well, do you have any other tips or advice for us? If anything that you want to leave us with?
I think it's just really important that if someone really is, I always want to say as a clinician, if you're really dealing with something a little more serious.
Oh, yes.
In your mental health,
yeah,
then get out to a place where you can get an assessment, a free assessment. That's what Connection Wellness does. So people can find out if there's more something serious going on and then get plugged into with a therapist or a doctor or something that will help them, or a program. We have a lot of those. Keller has one for kiddos. So it's available in the community. And then the other tip is, if that is you and you're listening to this and you're feeling like you have something more serious, talk to someone.
Yeah. Reach
out to a parent or reach out to a friend, reach out to a teacher or somewhere where you feel safe and talk about what's going on so that you can address it. I think that's probably important for me to mention as a
that's
to people. So,
excellent. I'm glad you brought that up, because we were talking about that.
Yeah.
Because that is a huge deal. Because we were talking about how, I don't necessarily think people always alert anybody when they're having problems, but also, so to add to what you're saying, if you're aware of someone in your life that's started acting differently or kind of detaching, or they're more aloof, definitely reach out.
That's a great point to bring up. If you're a person that's observing someone in your family or friends that are changes, see something, say something, right? Like I love that you just brought that up. That's really important. But, at the end of the day, let's all try to just live and enjoy life and stay in balance and be mindful of what's throwing us off.
Assume
Pay
the
attention
best
to it.
of people.
Right. Assume the best of people.
Find a way to sleep without eating candy.
Sit like this, communicate with eye contact.
Eye contact, I know.
Let's get back to a better, healthier on the spectrum.
I love it. That is such a great, right? I love that. Okay.
Kind of come back to what we talked about.
Well, I have a gift because I do the hat for every show. And I don't know if you have one yet, but you have yours now. So you can have your special hat. So you can represent whenever you like.
I love it.
Yeah, there you go.
Make sure that I am actually wearing this whenever I see Jessica, because I know she'll have hers on and then we can be twins.
What? Yeah, I love it. And then you know how we close out the show, right? We go, what do I do all the time at the chamber?
You do?
Yeah. You want to do it?
Here we go. Let's go.
So let's look at the middle camera, and then you're going to look at that one for your end.
Okay.
Okay. Middle camera?
Middle camera?
Middle camera. Okay, ready?
Don't be a dumb. Oh, no.
No. Okay, ready? What are you waiting for? Get to the point.
Don't be a dumbbell.